And welcome back to the PD Football Podcast. My name is Presh.
My name is Darren.
And how are you doing today?
I'm okay. I'm feeling a bit fatigued as usual, but
every week
it's becoming like a catchphrase now. So
we'll print some T-shirts that says "fatigued as usual."
Fatigued as usual. Yeah, that should be my catchphrase. But yeah, how's everything on your end?
I'm great. I've caught up with Invincible. Great show. Very sci-fi. You know, I don't know how else to say it. Like, so when I went to watch Avatar, Fire and Ash, there was this idiotic person like 2 or 3 rows behind me who couldn't stop speaking during the movie. But
which time was this?
The second time I went to watch with my cousin. So this lady just spoke. But one thing that stuck with me is she said, "I love how sci-fi this is," and
that was the one good thing that came of it.
No, she said a lot of interesting things, but you're not supposed to speak in a theater. I went and complained.
Who did you complain to?
The theater manager. Their office is like just outside the place. Now again, because this was the second time I watched it, I didn't mind taking like 1 or 2 minutes out of my time to
go complain.
Did
you complain during the movie?
Yes, of course. What the fuck?
Did they tell her to keep quiet?
Yes. They sent an employee to come in. The employee just stood there. They spoke, and then the guy told them, "Hey, stop speaking." And then, yeah, I'll go complain. I don't care. Like you're ruining the experience for like a lot of people. Like if that wasn't my second time, I'd be very, very pissed. So yeah,
I can imagine it's annoying. So.
Anyway, similarly, Invincible is just so sci-fi. I love the concepts, the ideas, the places they go to. It's very it's very interesting.
I'll probably try to check it out if I get the time. But my girlfriend has also been recommending it to me, so I should try to check it out at some point.
No, well, it's not like at the top of the list. I would recommend other things before Invincible, but like, yeah, let's just I just want to remind you that this is a football podcast, and
there's no football this week. Well, there's international games, but
so due to the international break, we're going to be doing an Evergreen episode. That means you can listen to it at any time and it will still largely be how we feel, as opposed to our regular episodes where opinions can change week on week. The only rule I imposed on myself, because we didn't really discuss any rules for this, but the thing is I need to have watched this player in their prime. So this rules out a player such as Andy Cole, who I think is underrated based on reputation, but I only saw him for a few seasons at the end of his career, so I think it would be unfair to comment on it if I haven't seen him play.
Yeah, I think I went with the same thing. I have to at least watch like one full season by them.
Andy Cole, just before we get into it, I wanted to say he is like, you wouldn't think of him as a prolific goal scorer. Like, people just don't bring him up in those conversations. But if you look at the statistics, he is the number 5 goal scorer of all time in the Premier League. He was only very recently overtaken by Salah. And if you take away penalties, he's the number 2 goal scorer of all time in the Premier League, just behind Alan Shearer.
So that's crazy, yeah. I didn't know that, but I guess
that's why he's underrated. But again, that's just by reputation. When I've never seen him play, so I cannot.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably not even born when he started playing. So that's an insane record, though. So he's definitely underrated, because I haven't heard him brought up in any conversations, or at least not to like the same degree as Alan Shearer, you know.
Yeah, and he was a peer of Alan Shearer. So, and a lot of people didn't watch Shearer as well. So, and they'll bring Shearer up in conversation. So why not Andy Cole?
I mean, people could say Andy Cole won more. I don't know what the dynamics were like at the time, you know.
Andy Cole won 5 league titles and 1 Champions League. Alan Shearer won 1 league title.
With Blackburn, yeah.
Yes. Okay, would you like to hear the argument against? And I guess this is like a trial run for when we actually get into the list.
Yeah.
The argument against was that, first of all, he was quite a lazy player. But that's not really a bad thing, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in this list you're going to have a lot of things where we're just overlooking things that people think, oh, this is a drawback of this player or something, you know, so that's normal, I guess. But, I mean, I didn't watch either Andy Cole or Alan Shearer. I mean, statistically, like you said, maybe it appears that Andy Cole probably is more prolific or had a period where I think generally at some point he was the most prolific in Premier League history in terms of... I think Jamie Vardy beat him, right? The most consecutive games scored or something, or before, or Ruud van Nistelrooy as well. But there's some record he held that was pretty impressive of goals per game, I think. I don't know if it was over a course of one season or something.
I think it was most goals and assists combined in a season, and that was just overtaken by Salah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In the previous last year.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't even know he was I just thought of him as like an out-and-out number 9. So I didn't know he got a lot of assists in any season. So then...
Well, it's mainly his goals. And then, you know, like how Haaland gets assists?
Yeah.
Just because he's, like, in the vicinity of, like, the danger zone, he'll just pass it to somebody, like, 1 meter away, and they'll finish it off.
They'll get a tap in, yeah.
Yeah, so similarly... Now, again, I didn't watch him week to week, but that's the impression I got while I was doing my research of Andy Cole.
But kudos to Andy Cole. I guess if we had watched him, he could have made the list.
So another, I don't want to say a rule, but just something I kind of live by in my life is there's no rage bait on this list, right? These are genuine opinions. Even if you think they're unbelievably wrong, no one on my list were put there to seek attention or cause people to get angry or, you know. Like, it's a shame that I have to say that out loud, but there are a lot of people who do it, you know, to cause controversy or to court controversy so that...
I think it's all about the context. Like, I mean, people would think maybe, oh, okay, you're rage baiting by saying this player, but then that's just what I believe in the context of how that player's
people have very different beliefs,
you know.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily, if someone's on the overrated list, I'm not necessarily saying they're not a top-class player. And if someone's on the underrated list, I'm not necessarily saying they're better than anyone who's on the overrated list. You know, it's just in the context of how their game is appreciated.
All right. So, if you don't mind, can we start with the underrated list?
My underrated list.
Well, this is what I thought we'd do, right? We'd throw back to each other. So I start with 5, your 5. My 4, your 4. My 3, your 3. But let's say, for example, my 5 is your 2.
Yeah.
I bring it up first. You will, you know, give
bring
your
it up
thoughts.
at a different point.
No. You bring it up at the same time as me.
Oh, okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then we'll have one clear discussion about that player. We don't split it up into...
So who's your number
portions.
5?
So just before we start, I just want to give a bonus, because as I was doing my research for this episode, the name I kept seeing pop up was Dennis Irwin. I've literally never heard that name. I've heard that name.
I've heard of him, but I haven't. I can't even recall watching one game of his.
Yes, so like Andy Cole, he played before my time, so I can't comment on him, but I very rarely hear him discussed by older football fans. He was a fullback, and he's not in the fullback conversations that you hear all the time. So, yeah. Just a quick bonus.
If you did watch Dennis Irwin, we didn't leave him off because we hate him, you know.
Yeah. Number 5, Santi Cazorla. So unfortunately, injuries robbed Arsenal of an incredible player, but in the short time that I saw him, I was amazed by his quality. And very unfortunately, he was in the same era as David Silva, who himself is underrated, but doesn't make this list because, you know, he's quite well known.
Yeah, I mean, for my number 5, I went...
Wait. Just let's discuss Cazorla.
I didn't put him on the...
No, just your thoughts.
I would say he's an underrated player, generally speaking, but he didn't make my list mostly because I think amongst Arsenal fans, the circles that I'm consuming information in, he's very highly regarded. So,
sure. But I think when I made my list, I was more thinking about the casual fan.
Yeah.
What the casual fan thinks, and I just don't think the casual fan looks back at that era and thinks, Cazorla was, you know...
Yeah, I'd say he came before the era which I'd say was the best Premier League era, slightly before it. At least he had his prime then. So I would say perhaps if he was in Chelsea or Man City at that time, he might have gotten better appreciation. But he definitely was one of the best midfielders in the league at the time. Yeah. I think while he was playing, people acknowledged that quite readily. Like, oh, okay, he's Arsenal's best player. Yeah. Most of the time, people acknowledge that. So I think it's more, like you said, in retrospect, he's underappreciated, maybe a little bit underrated, but definitely one of my favorite players. I think.
Okay.
I would love him in the modern Arsenal team. I think, especially, him instead of Odegaard would be a big upgrade for me. Not that I'm throwing Odegaard under the bus, but I think he was also.
It's just to speak to Cazorla's quality.
And how good he was out of possession as well, because I think that's the best part of Odegaard's game. I recall a game against Man City when in the season they won the league. I don't remember if it was under Pellegrini or Mancini, but I think Cazorla had an incredible game defensively. And we beat them 2-0, but it was the first time we beat a big team in like a long, long time under Wenger, maybe like 3 or 4 seasons, and that was still one of the best individual displays I've seen from an Arsenal player. So,
okay, your number 5.
My number 5 I went with purely because I think obviously in terms of his output, I think he had one of the best output. My number 5 is Heung-min Son from Tottenham. I think statistically and in terms of his output, he should be spoken of as one of the best best wingers in the history of the league, but I don't think he ever gets mentioned in that regard. Could be because Tottenham hasn't won anything. Does that fall on him? Does that fall on Harry Kane? But I think in that team, people usually speak of Harry Kane, Moussa Dembele, Christian Eriksen. I think of all the players there, even Dele Alli gets more mention than him. So I would put Son as my number 5.
I don't know how much I agree with that. I think the casual fan recognizes how good Son is. Like,
I don't think so. I don't think even when people reflect back on it now, I think I see mostly Dembele or Kane propaganda 85% of the time. I don't really see people talking about Son, even though he was there in the Europa League. He didn't do much. I mean, he did a lot in the group stages, but
I agree that in the circles you run in, similarly, Son is like quite rated highly, right?
Yeah.
But outside of, the other way around. You said he's underrated.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think he's generally underrated because I think he should be spoken of as one of the best Premier League wingers of his generation. I think it's just that he probably came around in the generation where it was the best, the hardest. I think you had Salah, you had Mane, you had the City wingers, Sane, Bernardo was on the wing at the time as well.
Sterling, Mahrez.
Sterling played for both clubs. Yeah, you had Eden Hazard. So it was a tough time for him. But I think overall, he's on the same level as some of those players. For me, he doesn't get spoken of in the same regard.
Are we done with that?
Yeah.
Okay. My number 4 is Chris Wood. Burnley were holding on for dear life to Premier League status. They were like finishing 17th every year, just slightly surviving the drop, and for 4 consecutive seasons he scored 10 goals, which is a phenomenal return for a player at that level, just avoiding relegation, and his goals contributed to saving that team from relegation quite a lot. And then when he went to a bigger team in Nottingham Forest, he put up 14 and 20 goal seasons, which showed that he could make the step up given better players around him. Yeah. So I just think Chris Wood supremely underrated for the players.
I mean, for like the last, I guess, as long as he's been in the Premier League, almost as long as he's fit, he's usually in the top 5 or 6 scorers in the league, which is crazy. Sometimes you feel he keeps teams up on his own, like with his goal contributions especially. So I think even in some of the games against whoever he's played for, when Arsenal have played him, he's been like one of the most tricky forwards for any of our centre-halves to mark, whether they were the ones who weren't so good, Mustafi and Socrates, or whether it's Gabriel and Saliba. I think we've generally had a tough time against Chris Wood, So I would agree with that. I didn't think of him, but coming to think of it, I would actually also probably include him at number 4.
So who is your number 4?
My number 4 was purely based off, I don't think he's necessarily underrated, but I just think his peak is not spoken about as it should be, because I went for mostly like players at their peak as well. That was my judgment, and I think his last season at Tottenham and his first season at Man United were two of the best seasons I've seen from a striker in the Premier League. So I'll put Dimitar Berbatov at number 4. But again, I think he's generally appreciated. I just don't think the way he's spoken about, like I think he should be, those 2 seasons, in terms of the individual quality, I still don't think we've seen a player with that much poise as an attacker in the Premier League, you know.
He could do it all at walking pace.
In 07, 08, he did a lot of work as well that went under the radar for Ronaldo and Rooney. I think Ronaldo and Rooney got all the plaudits, but a lot of people reflect back on him being the best player in that period, the most important player, a bit like Firmino, you know.
My number 3 is Jared Bowen.
I knew it was coming.
A player I absolutely adore, and I've said multiple times we should replace Mohamed Salah with Jared Bowen. I usually get laughed at, but I know what's true in my heart. He regularly puts up double-digit goal and assist numbers in an extremely average West Ham team. He's a big game player. He scored in the Conference League final as well as regularly against the Big Six teams. So I just don't see not a weakness, but I just don't see why people don't rate him as, you know, let's say in this generation behind Salah.
As in terms of a Premier League winger?
Yes. Between, let's say, the year 2020 and 2026. As an Arsenal fan, I assume you would bring up Saka.
Yeah, obviously. I would say Saka's better. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say Palmer's better because of consistency, but I think Palmer's first season at Chelsea was better than... I think even if Bowen potentially hits a peak and stays there, I don't think he can reach that level either. But I agree with you that he's underrated based on everything you've mentioned. I don't think necessarily that he's one of the best wingers of his generation, like you said. So I say you personally overrate him, but I think generally he's an underrated player.
All right. The thing I forgot to mention with Santi Cazorla as well is that Bowen doesn't get recognition for the national team. And I genuinely believe this, not rage bait or whatever. I think he should be starting right wing for England at the next World Cup, just based on form.
Based on form, currently, I would agree. I think he's the most in-form right winger England have right now.
Frankly, the 3 behind Kane would be Anthony Gordon, Morgan Rogers, Jared Bowen, which is a crazy thing to say because none of them play for the Big Six teams, but that's just my opinion on it. I
mean, Morgan Rogers has fallen off quite a lot, like in the second half of the season.
I would agree that his goal scoring has fallen off, but his carries into the box, his general play has stayed the same level. It's only the goals that have dropped off. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but who goes out then?
Oh, Palmer, Saka, Foden, Bellingham, they can all fuck off.
No, I don't think Morgan Rogers is anywhere close to Bellingham, but...
Alright, to each their own. But yes, Jared Bowen, what is your number 3?
My number 3 was... I only watched him for like 2 full seasons, but purely this is a personal decision because he's one of the players that made me fall in love with football. So I'm not sure about the context of his whole career, but... when I used to pick up a ball and kick it in the backyard, I used to want to be like him. So number 3 for me was JJ Okocha.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've never brought him up before, so this is very interesting. And I do not recall watching him play, so this is, again, very interesting.
Yeah.
So continue, yes?
Yeah, I mean, he was my dad's favorite player. So I think my dad propagandized me, but it was like his favorite player till Ronaldinho came along. So that's the type of footballer my dad likes, if you're wondering. Then his next favorite player after that was Messi and Neymar. So, like, I think I used to...
He has a type.
Yeah, I think he just... I don't know what his decisions were behind the career choices he made. I think he wanted to be a Bolton legend, but... he rejected Arsenal, he rejected Chelsea, I think he rejected Man United, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't exactly know why he wanted to stay at Bolton, but a lot of, I think even there was a coach reflecting back on it. I don't remember who it was. Maybe a former player, maybe they were a player at the time. But they said he was comfortably one of the best midfielders that they'd played against, I think. And a lot of people have said that he was the trickiest player play against. So I think also Gilberto Silva said when he played against him for Arsenal was the most difficult game he'd had. I think there was a game he scored a brace against Arsenal. One of the goals is still like a famous meme because he lobbed it over the defender's head and then he lobbed it back again. I don't remember who the defender was, but I think that's the second time an Arsenal player got memed like that. So I'm glad Trossard did it to Foden, so we got our revenge. But I'm not exactly sure. I think a lot of people who've reflected back on that time, a lot of players of that time speak of him as one of the best players of that generation in England. So I wish he went to a bigger club. It's like one of those players who's underrated purely because I think if he had taken a bigger move, he might have platformed his talent better. But at the same time, I think his relationship with Bolton off the pitch, he's done a lot of business with them. It's served him well in his life. He seems to be a player after football that's managed his money well, which is rare for some players coming from Africa, especially when they get to Europe. It's been like a trend of especially South African footballers. We see them here when they come back. I mean, they struggle to keep the money. I don't know what the reasons are behind it, but I'm sure it's like a lifestyle thing. So I think I would call him underrated purely because he's one of my favorite players. That's
you forgot to say the phrase he was so nice they named him twice.
Oh, yes.
Which is the number one thing people used to say about him when I was younger. My number 2 is Kieran Trippier. So it's really unfortunate once again that he came up in the era with Kyle Walker, Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I genuinely think he's the best and most balanced of the four. So for example, Walker was a pace merchant, James is a hospital patient, and Trent is a bad defender. But because he never challenged for big titles and he played for the smaller clubs, he was never in the conversations I think he ought to be in. I think he's in the running for best right back in the history of the league.
I don't know. I feel like two ways of Trippier. So I would have agreed maybe, but I watched him at Atletico a lot. That's where I watched him the most, and he was really bad there. So it's I don't know.
Well, we basing it on the Premier League, right?
Yeah.
So I'm only basing it on what I've seen.
What you've seen. I mean, he was also, I'd say, like a bit like Son. He was probably the underrated player from Tottenham's, spell, the Pochettino era, if we call it that, when they were competing for things. So I mean, I could agree with that statement. I would say he's the most balanced of the four. I'd agree. I'd say he also is the most traditional. I think that was the other thing that affected him, probably, that it was a time where traditional fullbacks and traditional wingers were probably like a bit out of fashion. I feel like now they're coming back into fashion. Maybe Trippier being younger now would have been like a right back, like you said, who would be the perfect right back. I think for like a system like Mikel Arteta, I think he would like probably a prime Trippier, that's very much similar to what Ben White is when he can stay fit, So yeah, I would agree that he's underrated. He didn't make my list either. So, but I would agree with you that definitely Kieran Trippier probably. I wouldn't say he's the greatest right back in Premier League history.
Who would you say is? Just a quick one.
For me, I would probably say Trent.
All right.
I mean,
your number 2.
My number 2 was actually from the Chelsea team, was Michael Essien. I think those 2 seasons when they went back to back. I think until we saw probably Kante at Chelsea and Leicester maybe like a decade later, or maybe a decade and a half later, I don't think we'd seen, probably a decade later, I don't think we'd seen a player play the defensive midfield role in a way where you actually wondered, like, how do you play through them, like every time. I think Arsenal were known for being at the time the best team at playing through teams, playing through the center of the pitch. And I think the one team we always struggled, probably in the era of where I think we were just coming out of our invincible spell as well. Most people at that time thought Arsenal had the best team in the world, And I think there were games, almost every game we played against them, where he overran our midfield completely by himself, I think he made Ballack and Lampard look a lot better than they were. That's my opinion. I think in those 2 seasons, it was incredible. I think he was one of the best defensive midfielders in Premier League history in my mind. I'd say just behind Kante for me, and Rodri now. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Michael Essien? Because I don't really... I do remember him playing, but I don't recall watching Chelsea, that often at that time. Okay.
I think they were the team that I really expected us to. As a kid, even, everyone was talking. The reason I started supporting Arsenal was honestly like because I wanted to be the person who got to brag every week. And I think I started supporting football in '04, and Arsenal haven't won a league since.
Wow.
So I chose to support the winners, and we haven't won since. But
That's very unfortunate. All right. My number one, similarly to your number two, is a guy named Michael, and he played the CDM role. But it's Michael Carrick.
oh, he's my number one. I'm
Yes.
just saying that because
So it's both our number one.
yeah.
All right. So I think the position of defensive midfield as a whole is underrated because until very recently, the casual fan didn't realize how important it actually is. And not just the casual fan. Quite infamously, when Florentino Perez sold Makelele to Chelsea, Zidane said, quote, "Why put another layer of gold on the Bentley when you're losing the entire engine?" End quote. Right. So Carrick is on my list on his own terms because he never got a look in for the England squad, similarly to the other people on my list. When, in my opinion, he should have been the first name on the team sheet, not in terms of quality, in terms of profile.
I think, yeah, in terms of consistency as well, I think, especially, I recall his last season at Tottenham as well, I think he was probably the most consistent midfielder in the Premier League at the time by a long way in terms of, I guess, you could guarantee, like you were speaking earlier of David Silva, obviously different positions, but I think with Michael Carrick, you guarantee him to do a certain thing every game and be able to sustain a certain amount of control for your team, which I think was also very underrated, you know.
So I think it's difficult to quantify a defensive midfielder's contributions, but if you actually watch Carrick, he was the closest thing to Busquets that England ever produced, in my
I would
opinion.
agree, yeah.
So, yeah, Carrick, my number one. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the best passes in Premier League history as well. I think definitely underrated. Like, he had any pass in his locker, I think. Diagonals, through passes, short, long. I think that's something a lot of Alex Ferguson's plays, maybe even Paul Scholes. I wouldn't, obviously, I'm not talking about him as underrated, but I'll say that he doesn't really platform passes in a way where you get the most out of their talent. I guess we see that now, like maybe with a coach like Guardiola, where, oh, okay, you can imagine what Carrick would have been like under Guardiola if you're watching someone like Rodri, you know, because the scope of his talent is utilized better than when a team is constantly playing on the transition, you know. So I think it's like, it's hard to see. It's like another one of those players that made my list because, yes, he did peak and he won everything, but at the same time, like you said, would have been nice to see him play around better players. Not that Man United weren't one of the best teams in the world, but around players, like you said, similar to maybe Xavi, Iniesta, maybe Modric, Kroos if he had gone there. You never know. I don't think, obviously, whether he would have been better than Casemiro or not is a different debate, but I feel like...
Well, he would have been too old by then, I think.
No. I'm saying hypothetically, like putting him in a scenario where he's in an elite midfield, not necessarily of his time, but where his talent can shine better. So I guess he's also one of those players where maybe even in Arsenal as an individual, because purely... But I don't think Wenger would have utilized him as well as Ferguson out of possession. My thing is that I think his passing, specifically at Man United, just like Paul Scholes, was underutilized, you know.
I would think maybe like a Andre Pirlo, maybe like a deep line playmaker.
Yeah, exactly. That's
he could spray the ball.
Yeah.
So you just put like 2 8s who could run in front of him and then, you know.
Let him like spread the ball, use his talent better, you know. Let him the same, like you said, like Busquets. Let him build up more. Let him join. Let him beat the press more. Just stop using him as the same way you would, I guess, like Makelele. You know, they're different type of players. You know?
So, well, it just, you know, coincidence we had the same number one, but that just goes to show he's like kind of undisputed as the most underrated. That, like, you know, people quote unquote in the know, the people who know, and the casuals, they forgot about him, or if they even recognized him as one of the best.
I mean, it's strange because obviously now we don't, neither of us really rate him as a coach, so
well, those are two different jobs,
two completely different things. No, but I'm saying now he's back under the microscope, so people mustn't necessarily confuse his coaching ability
with his playing ability.
He was a world-class player, I think. definitely.
Gotcha. In my mind, CDM is the most important position. So having a good player there, that's where your whole team starts. That's how I would build a team.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. I mean, we've seen with Man City recently, when Rodri's out for large spells, their form is like night and day sometimes, So I can imagine also if Arsenal were to lose Rice. I mean, obviously Rice is playing as an 8, but I think out of possession he still functions as our 6. So it's like I agree with you. It's probably the most important position to build a team around, or to have a team like function. But it's also the hardest position to find quality in my eyes.
Absolutely. You want to move on now to the top 5 most overrated players in Premier League history.
Oh yeah, my number 2 was Alexis Sanchez though.
Oh shit! I didn't realize you didn't do your number 2.
Yeah. If we need to mention that, because
sorry
we skipped straight past it.
No, my bad. Your number 2, Alexis Sanchez.
Yeah, purely because I think obviously he's very highly rated amongst Arsenal fans, but I think for 3 seasons he had ridiculous numbers of goals and assists, playing in probably one of, if not the most dysfunctional team off the pitch in the league at the time. I think coaches, staff chopping and changing, players I think at one point we had 42 players on the roster before Arteta came in, just couldn't sell anyone, couldn't ship anyone on, playing in an attack with like players that, it's either youth players or players being chopped around. I think at times the only reason we made the Champions League or even didn't sink into becoming a mid-table team was probably Alexis Sanchez. I know a lot of people talk about Mesut Ozil, but I think Mesut Ozil had one really good season at Arsenal. I think that's all I can recall. I just imagine like if you had put in Alexis Sanchez in his prime years in a top team. Obviously he went to Man United, it didn't work out. I don't think they were a top team at the time anyway. I think they were fading away, but I think if he had chosen to sign with Pep instead of us at the time when Pep wanted to sign him, I feel like his contribution in Man City gets appreciated way more.
That was a spite signing, and I love a spite signing because it never goes right.
Yeah.
For example, Harry Maguire, Man City wanted to buy him. Man United came in and did a spite signing.
Yeah.
Alexis Sanchez, Man City wanted him. Man United came in and did a spite signing. Cristiano Ronaldo, I don't believe that this is true, but apparently Man City wanted him. Man United came in and did a spite signing. So
that's how it is. Yeah.
United love to be like, oh, City want them. All right, let's get them, and it very rarely works out, if ever.
Yeah, I mean that's like I think generally being spiteful doesn't work out. So that's just a bit of life advice, I guess. But yeah, I mean I think with Alexis Sanchez in terms of a winger, the amount of goals and assists he used to get. I mean, Salah's now blown him out the water, so it doesn't seem normal, or it seems more normal. But until that stage, I think he was very much putting up numbers that I think he was just playing in a completely terrible Arsenal team. And as a football fan, you'd wish he'd gone somewhere else. As an Arsenal fan, I'm glad he carried us through those years. So that's why I don't hate him to this day, even though he went to Man United,
Alright, top 5 most overrated players in Premier League history. Do you want to start with this one, and then we'll do that?
This will get people's blood boiling. But obviously we don't mean anything personal, as we said. It's just
I do.
Yeah, I mean obviously you can mean something personal, but I mean we don't mean anything personal to you, the listener.
The listener. Okay, yes, no.
We're not invalidating your opinion if you believe something different. As we say all the time, comment. Let us know if you disagree. But yeah, I mean, my number 5, as an Arsenal fan, probably going to annoy some people, but I think retrospectively, people talking of him as one of the best wingers in Premier League history, people talking about him as one of the Premier League greats, as one of the greatest players in Premier League history. That's what makes him overrated for me personally, in that I think there's a lot of better wingers we've seen in recent times that don't get the same recognition as him, purely maybe because they didn't play in the Invincibles, but it's Robert Pires, I would say a top winger, potentially world class in his time, but I would definitely say overrated in terms of the way he's regarded in the Premier League as one of the best wingers, or one of the best left wingers to play in the league.
I'm going to be honest with you, I very rarely hear his name pop up in those conversations, so I'm going to have to disagree about the, the general, feeling towards him. Because when people bring up that Invincibles team, they bring up Henry Bergkamp.
No, Bergkamp hardly played.
Oh.
The Invincibles season.
Okay, maybe not the Invincibles. I'm just talking about Arsenal.
The Invincibles team, it's generally him, Vieira, and Henry.
All right, my mistake then. But
And I've seen him in quite a few like top 20 lists of Premier League players as well. So.
All right, carry on making your case.
No, but again, I still love him as an Arsenal player. I just think he's slightly overrated, or I don't think. For example, I'd say Leroy Sané was a better winger, had a higher peak than him. You know, I think Leroy Sané in the Centurion season was unplayable when he was good. I don't think Robert Pires was ever unplayable. That's
who's better, Heung-min Son or Robert Pires?
Son. I think if you put Son in that Arsenal team, maybe we win the Champions League. Who knows?
Alright. My number 5 is Jordan Henderson. So I'm saying this purely because he won the Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year, which is an award with some prestige, you know. It's not some bullshit, you know. The narrative of the time was that the whole Liverpool team was so good that nobody could choose who to give it to. So they gave it to the captain of the team. And that's one of the worst decisions and worst things that I've ever heard in my life. Let's give it to somebody who doesn't deserve it because they're the captain of a team of people who do deserve it.
Even though, Van Dijk and the front three had sensational seasons individually.
Most of the team, the fullbacks, Alisson.
I'm just talking about like from a casual fan perspective. Like you said, I'm sure the casual fans watching it thinking, how does Henderson win it over Mane, Salah, Firmino? You know?
I think the football writers were trying to be kind of too clever.
Or pro-British.
That could be another thing as well. They just wanted to be like, oh, you, the casual fan, what you're not seeing is actually not Brian. His middle name is Brian. Jordan Henderson.
Brian Henderson. That's where Jordan Henderson comes and hits us up.
Yeah. Hi guys, it's Brian. Like, who's this? Alright, let's invite him over. We invite him over. He comes in and he starts beating us up.
Fucks us
up. But yes, I just never rated him. One of the most overrated players I've ever seen in my life, especially within the Liverpool fan base. They'll make any excuse for him to prop him up.
I was going to say that, like, probably a large percentage of Liverpool fans would be in like complete conjecture to you.
Of course, yes.
They believe he's one of the most underrated. When
and
you
a bunch of fucking idiots. Of course, of course they would say that.
I mean, that was kind of what I brought up Robert Pires for. I don't have any animosity to Pires, though. Let me.
I have animosity because honestly, now it's a very difficult profile to get. But I've always maintained that. The whole thing was that Jordan Henderson will run the hard yards. And my point was, we can get a guy who runs the hard yards, but also has technique. And that guy, his name is Szoboszlai. If we had Szoboszlai during the years of Henderson, we would have won many, many more trophies. I'll say that. At least 3.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think Szoboszlai and Declan Rice are the best midfielders in the Premier League currently. So the same thing I was saying with Alexis Sanchez, I guess. If you put him in place of Robert Pires, perhaps the Invincibles can go to the next level, you know. So I agree with what you're saying. So I do agree that Jordan Henderson is overrated by the British press. I think when they talk about him being one of the most efficient or important players of his generation, I disagree as well completely. I do see the value of what he did in terms of...
I see the value of the position.
Yeah, exactly.
But why does he have to be the...
Yeah, no, I mean, I see the value of, like, in terms of his functionality as a runner, you know. Like, I think that's what Klopp mostly used him for, like, his ability to press and close down space. So I think, in a way, it did sometimes, especially in like, the Champions League moments, free the bigger players up. Sometimes. Obviously, sometimes it had the opposite effect, but I could see that the athleticism is what probably people can confuse for someone being a good player sometimes, you know.
Yes. The last point I want to make with him is his overrated leadership qualities. Because we won the league as soon as he left. This idea that he's some unparalleled leader of men that...
And then he got chased out of Ajax for having a shit attitude.
You ran away from Saudi, he ran away from Ajax. Yeah. That's all I have to say about Jordan Brian Henderson. Your number 4?
My number 4 pick, I don't know if he would be on your list as well, but for me, I think also, a lot of there's I don't harbor any jealousy towards Man United for their achievements in terms of jealousy as a fan, okay, you wish you'd won as much as them, but no jealousy in terms of their football project. So this is not coming from that perspective, but I think Gary Neville is the most overrated defender in the history of the league, and I think he's number 4 on my list. I think the league was weak at the time. Like I said, the best left winger most people regarded was Robert Pires. I don't think he was particularly an elite footballer. I think, again, similar to Jordan Henderson, whenever I watched him, it's more his running power, his athleticism that got praised. So, 1-2 Champions League, some people would say that matters, but again, I don't think he was an important part of either. That's just my opinion. I think Man United could have been better off without him, So Gary Neville's my number 4. I think I just think he's an overrated fullback, and I think maybe part of it is because of how he is outside as a pundit or as a person, but I don't think that really affects it. I find him funny. I actually like his character, even though he's rage baity. We said we're not about the rage bait, But I think he's probably one of the most overrated defenders, generally speaking, that I've ever seen. Because generally, when people talk about the greatest Premier League right back, they almost always put him at the top of the list, and I'm like, no.
I'm not sure how much I agree with you, because, and to be fair, I didn't watch him a lot, so I don't have a good basis to speak about him. But I think he did what he did in the era that he played in. You know what I'm saying? Now, in hindsight, we look at guys like Alexander-Arnold who do much more for the team. But in his time, he was perfectly rated as, where he should be, in my mind. But I take your point.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Gary Neville?
Nah, nothing really. I mean, that's it, Who's your number 4?
Similarly to you, I have a right back that I believe is the actual most overrated right back.
I knew he was coming at some point anyway. But
no, I don't think. I think you think it's somebody else, but it's not.
Oh.
My pick is Kyle Walker.
Oh, okay. I thought it was somebody else.
You thought it was Trent, I know.
Yes.
But no.
Good pick, though.
Kyle Walker he's truly one of the worst defenders I've ever seen in my life.
But I'd say, Kyle Walker is like the 2020s version of Gary Neville.
Sure, that could be the case. Like I said, I didn't watch enough of Gary Neville, so I can't comment, but that may be a spot-on comparison that I'm just, have a recency bias. That's why I'm saying Kyle Walker. But he's genuinely one of the worst defenders I've ever seen. Worse than Trent Alexander-Arnold, if you can believe it, but his recovery pace bailed him out every single time. And now that he's lost a lot of his pace playing for Burnley, we can see just how open and just how naive he actually is.
I mean, I think a lot of the reason Pep moved to 4 centre backs was probably the trauma Kyle Walker gave him. The amount of space I think his recovery pace can help you in the Premier League, and his pace overlapping.
Well, it worked out for several years, so
yeah, I
had to hold my mouth shut until now.
I think in the biggest games, though, it affected them. That's why they struggled to win the Champions League, even though they were the best team in the world for the better part of the last 10 years. I think he generally, if you go back, probably the games they lost against Real Madrid, the space was probably always being left there. Like you said, Trent leaves a lot of space, but Trent gives you something, and you guys had probably the greatest centre-back of all time alongside him. So the greatest centre-back I've seen, let me not say of all time, because I know people are going to bring up people I didn't watch, but it's like when you had Van Dijk playing like that, I think that entire back four and Alisson was elevated defensively. It's a bit like Saliba now, I think, and Gabriel. So I think he doesn't give you anything. Trent's creative bag was out of this world in some games, so I think just like Dani Alves, that's my excuse for Trent, but I don't think you can make that for Kyle Walker, because he loses the ball as much as I think more than he wins it back, maybe.
So just continuing the conversation we had with the underrated with Trippier, I truly believe Trippier was a much better player than Walker, but if you had to ask the casual fan, they would say the opposite. So that's why. And the last point I want to make with Kyle Walker is kind of a bigger point. It's not, if we look at Kyle Walker, the archetype, right? Mm-hmm. There's other players like him that weren't good defensively, but their recovery pace bailed them out so much, and they won trophies. So in hindsight, it looks like we can't, So the other name that came to mind but I chose Kyle Walker instead was Rio Ferdinand. He's another guy that once his body gave up on him, you could see how badly he read the game.
Yeah, he was, again, probably carried by Vidic a bit, Vidic's ability to read the game. And Van der Sar, I think Van der Sar was also one of those keepers who peaked very late, but when he peaked, he was like as complete as you could expect for the time. Obviously, now people expect keepers to play out and stuff, but I think Van der Sar was like the closest thing to Petr Cech at the time,
All right. So that's all I have to say about Kyle Walker. Your number 3?
My number three is, well, it's a player who I don't know if they overrated or underrated, but generally I see a lot of pundits and a lot of people on Twitter bring them up as the most appreciated and most underrated player, which is what consequentially made me regard him as overrated. Number 3 for me is Moussa Dembele from Tottenham.
Yes.
I think
when I was doing my research, his name popped up a lot from other people. Quote unquote, one of the best midfielders in Premier League history.
That's what I've seen. There's absolutely no way.
It was very difficult to get the ball off him. I'll give you that.
Yeah, he was good at keeping the ball. He was good at progressing it to a degree,
but aside from that, he didn't have any elite traits outside of just keeping the ball very well.
In a lot of ways, I think when Tottenham used to get to the final third, you could see Eriksen was overburdened. Who else was the creator there? Dele Alli wasn't much of a creator. Son wasn't much of a creator. Kane had to develop the ability to create because I think they weren't getting it from anyone except Eriksen, So it's I'm just saying, if Dembele is one of the best number 8s as people spoke about, shouldn't he be close to Steven Gerrard if you're saying he's underrated, who I think most people would agree that Steven Gerrard is probably the most complete 8 the Premier League has seen. Obviously, you can't put everything down to winning things, as I said before. I think Steven Gerrard in a better team, so Steven Gerrard moves to Chelsea, probably wins everything, So it's that's the thing. So I would say that maybe I could have put Gerrard on my most underrated list, but again, I don't think he's necessarily underrated. I think just more that people say, oh, Lampard is better or Scholes is better because they've won things, when I don't think neither of them are close, But it's I think Dembele, he just didn't have he's not an 8. You spoke of Cazorla earlier. Was he anywhere close to Cazorla? I don't think so. And I think Cazorla played 8 later in his career because that was the most functional position for him to play, because I think Arsenal had 2 number 10s in Ramsey and Mesut Ozil who couldn't play well as an 8, So it's not he started as a 10. I think probably Santi Cazorla is everything people say Moussa Dembele is, in retrospect. He just played in a Tottenham team that was a lot better at the time, and I think had the best centre-back partnership in the world, which helped platform his ability to drive the ball up a lot,
Alright. My number 3, also an 8, his name is Frank Lampard. Now you could just this is maybe the one you could put down to me having an agenda because of Gerrard, but I truly don't believe Lampard should have been in the same conversations, in the same...
Yeah, I would, if we had honorable mentions, Lampard would have been an honorable mention for me here.
So Lampard has better stats than Gerrard, but it totally leaves out the fact that 1, Gerrard didn't take penalties until very late in his career, and 2, Lampard played over 100 games more than Gerrard. So I don't want to make this them versus each other, but I'm just talking about Lampard as a player.
Yeah.
Inflated stats because he took all the penalties, all the...
And let's not forget Mourinho at the time, who was the best coach in the world, wanted to sign Gerrard when he already had Lampard.
Yes. So the thing I wanted to mention is, do you think they, when you said Gerrard went to Chelsea and he'd win it all, do you think that would happen, or do you think what happened at England would happen, where they try to cram in too many attackers and it becomes dysfunctional?
Well, I mean, I think at the time, Jose Mourinho was ahead of everyone. Until Pep Guardiola came along, I think he would have had the ruthlessness to push Lampard on. And he would have got the money. We'd seen him do it with other players before, you know. We saw him just, I think, sign Shevchenko and sell him the next season or a couple seasons, or just drop him. I don't think he was the one who sold him, but he played him for like 2 months and then never played him again, you know. So I think Mourinho would have definitely, I think if he, at the time, his idea was that, okay, the midfield he ended up forming, or he put the foundations in place for Real Madrid's all-conquering midfield. I think his idea at Chelsea was the same. I don't think Lampard platformed it the best. I think that's why they fell short in the Champions League as well. I think maybe if they had Gerrard, particularly in that semi-final where they created enough to win the game, Barcelona just overran them in midfield. A player like Gerrard might have tilted the margins in Chelsea's favour, because they were definitely better coached at the time, you know.
Like I said, I don't want to make this Lampard versus
I mean, I would be the neutral, because, I mean, I'm not saying, like I like both players, you know. Like, I just think Lampard is slightly overrated because people are basing it purely on output. And I think he was playing in a team that was...
Oh, yes, that's the thing I forgot to mention. He was in a far better team than
he was playing in a team that was arguably probably the best in terms of squad depth that England had ever seen, you know. Like, I don't think that a team had been assembled with that much depth, and it's why they hardly conceded any goals. I think they came one game away from going invincible, which was a game they had to rotate players against Sunderland. And I think it's just in that team, I feel like those 2 games where they could have become treble winners, perhaps with Gerrard they would have become treble winners, you know.
All right. Your number 2.
My number 2 most overrated player. Let me just confirm. My number 2 most overrated player. Obviously, it's a current player. I think we both speak about him. I mean, he's a goalkeeper. It's Jordan Pickford. I think just the way he's spoken about as being like one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I think he makes as many mistakes as shots as he stops. He jeopardizes the team as much as he saves them. So for me, like, it's more a thing of how much he's being played, how he's being currently spoken of. I don't think he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I don't think he's anywhere close to it. But every time you see a Premier League pundit speak about him, they talk about him as having kept Everton in the game. He's keeping them up single-handedly. I don't know if that's the case, but I don't believe it to be so. I think he's one of the most overrated players I've seen in my life.
I'm going to have to slightly disagree with you. I think the casual fan recognizes that he's a bit of a clown.
Yeah, I would say that, but then what is it with the pundits? Why does he get all this
Again, it's this British bias, you know.
Yeah.
They find it very difficult to criticize an Englishman, whereas like foreign players is fair game. They can just say whatever they want. But yeah, you were saying I disagree about the over. Like, I don't think he's rated, but if you're talking about this season, people have been propping him up as like he's the clear England number 1.
I mean, I don't know whether he is or not. I don't think England have many like people who are nailed on as like anyone who's nailed on as like a world-class goalkeeper right now. I think probably the cup final, what I saw from Trafford was potentially better for England than anything I've seen from Pickford. I would even just play him now off the basis of that one performance, because I think it gives more to the team to have a goalkeeper who can do everything. I just feel like he has done in the last couple tournaments, he might pull out a stop and save a chance, but he's also going to create like a one-on-one chance for the opposition with his like distribution. And I wouldn't mind like you could look at someone like Courtois, right? They don't have the best distribution, but they manage it well. You could look at someone like David Raya, who made his distribution better piece by piece. It still doesn't necessarily have like Edison or Alisson level, but he manages it very well. He knows which passes to use. My problem with Pickford is that he tries the passes that Alisson and Edison try on a regular basis, and he keeps fucking them up, you know. Like I think if he played in the top team, you would also realize how bad he is, just like Ramsdale. I think people, when Ramsdale got Arsenal to the Champions League, everyone was like, wow, he's such a good shot stopper. And then when Arteta got rid of him, I kind of understood, because I'm like, this guy keeps trying to pass the ball on the ground through the center of the pitch as if he's Alisson. And Alisson does it regularly, but he executes it almost every time. Ramsdale tries it 7 times and executes it once, and then he keeps trying it and trying it and trying it. And Pickford has that same thing. I guess when you're playing in a lower club, it can always be covered up between, like, because you're facing a lot of shots all the time, so you're stopping them. And if you're a good shot stopper, that can get people to think you're better than you are, you know.
It's for the cameras, you know.
Yeah.
A nice stop, it'll be on like the front page of the newspaper the next day, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Where distribution and other traits are not seen as, you know, that's why, you know, the casual fan prefers the shot stopper over the distributor.
Yeah, again, he'll look good in the World Cup, but perhaps one of the reasons England haven't been able to make the same jump as like France or Spain, despite having a squad of similar quality, is probably that they don't really have a goalkeeper that's elite. They've never had a goalkeeper that's elite, you know.
Okay, so my number 2 is Mohamed Salah. So he regularly used to get like 7-8 chances a game and score 1. And I'm supposed to, you know, stand up and praise this when I think a better player would get 2 or 3. A more clinical player, I should say. And I just don't think he was very clinical, except for 2 seasons, or let me say 1.5 incredible seasons where everything he touched turned to gold. But the rest of his time at Liverpool was
3.
just... Sorry?
It wouldn't be 2.5.
No, why do you say that?
The season you guys made the Champions League final. I mean, you didn't win anything, but he was crazy good.
Nah. For me, his first season, that's an incredible season. We just finished top 4 and we lost the Champions League final.
Yeah, that's the season I'm talking about.
That's his first season. That's a stone cold amazing season. The half season was last year, because about after Christmas he just stopped scoring. Like, he was on course to do a 30-20 and he did like 29-18.
Yeah, I mean, but it was like 3/4 of the season. I'd still give him the bag of the whole season, you know.
So this episode, I know I said this is an evergreen episode, but this episode happens to coincide with the week that he announced that he'll be leaving Liverpool, and we're gonna be seeing him held up as the best player in the history of the league, right? And I just don't think that's the case. What I wanted to do for the underrated section was to ask you a question. Who's the best player in the history of the league? And there is a correct answer, and that correct answer is undisputed in my mind.
Oh, for me it's KDB. But
so me too. But the thing is, I think we're in the minority when we say KDB is the undisputed best ever player.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the metric of what I think someone can use a very defined like criterion for like saying that, oh, okay, this, or a very specific criterion for saying this is what I want to be the best player ever. Like I was saying before, if someone wants it to be about poise or finesse, then it's like you're looking at, probably in a Premier League context, probably only like Berbatov, Bergkamp, and maybe Thierry Henry, you know. So it's like, I think De Bruyne has a bit of that. He's consistent. I mean, for most of his career, he was hardly injured at Man City. Maybe towards the end.
I disagree with that totally.
No, I mean, I think there was...
He had lots of injuries nearly every season, and it would be like in the beginning, like the early parts of the season, he'd have injuries, then the back half of the season.
But I think there was like a run where he played in the Centurion season and the next season where he played...
No, I'm not saying he was injured all the time. I'm just saying he had several small injuries that would keep him out for like weeks.
Yeah, but I think like he mostly was available, you know, which is, I think, the most important thing, because you could have someone potentially like Cazorla, who you were speaking about before, but he wasn't actually available half the time. So that's another thing that you'd have to consider as to why he didn't get maybe signed by Man City, because they were stealing all our players at the time, you know. I think.
All right, we're focusing too much on KDB. We're talking about Salah.
Yeah. So,
What did you want to say about Salah being overrated? Do you agree, disagree?
no, I obviously disagree. I think, but I would put Salah in my top 10 Premier League players of all time. So,
I'm just saying, like, if everyone is holding him up as number one, and I believe he's, say, number 5, that would be overrated to me. You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I don't think he's number 5. I think he's in the top 10, but I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying, is he the greatest Premier League player of all time?
Yes.
No, then
A
I'd
lot
say,
of, but the thing is, a lot of people have an argument.
yeah, I think a lot of people will have that argument, but it would mostly come from Liverpool fans. You know, I think it's
Well, I know I just said he announced his not retirement, him leaving the club, and I just saw outpouring of like respect from every fan base and like.
yeah, but
you
I
know.
think that also speaks to how good he's been. You know, like at the end of the day, it's not like he can control how people rate him. That's
Sure. But I just my disagreement comes with the fact that when you watch him, you watch how wasteful he is. How like he could be like you watch a Lewandowski who's not like Messi or Ronaldo, but Lewandowski would have been far more clinical than
yeah, but I
than
mean,
Salah.
there's certain types of players who are like that. I think the most important thing is that he generates enough chances to score 25 goals a season, which is crazy for a winger.
And that's another thing. It's the system that generated those chances. It's not him being particularly amazing or like.
No, but I'm saying it's like
If
it's
the
like,
system says you stand here, we'll pass in this direction, and you run onto it,
but in a lot of ways, he's like similar to the Premier League version of Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, I think he needs to generate a lot of chances to score, but it's like,
And that's what I'm talking about. He's just not clinical.
yeah, I don't think he's not clinical, because I think at the end of the day, the numbers speak for themselves. It's like, let's put it in a context of how many players can do that, you know. Like I was speaking about Alexis Sanchez earlier. He's someone who's very clinical. He got very few chances and took most of them. So perhaps is Alexis Sanchez a better footballer than Salah, though? I don't think so. Like overall, I still
Because you have to think of longevity as well and like those kinds of things. But in the people in the same brackets as Salah, there's much more.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're saying, okay, the bracket he goes into, but then that's a very like.
I'm just comparing him to his peers.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's overrated or underrated. I'd say he's like adequately rated for me.
All right, but that's just my opinion. Because, like I said, I've literally heard it because of this announcement. Best ever player, Liverpool's best ever player, which is also not true. You know, like just accolades that I totally disagree with. But yeah, your number one.
My number one, Eden Hazard, one of the best wingers in Premier League history, but also the way he's spoken of, I would say is heavily inflated. Like I wouldn't put him down as one of the best players of his generation. I'd say he came in the greatest footballing generation that I've seen. That I didn't watch every generation, but what most people, pundits or people who've even been giving opinions since those days, have said is the greatest generation of footballers. And a lot of people like to include him in the top 10. I don't think he's anywhere near the top 10 of footballers in the same generation. I think in Belgium, KDB outperformed him nearly every time. I think in the Premier League, KDB outperformed him. I think a lot of players outperformed him in the same era. I think the way Chelsea fans and the way a lot of Premier League pundits talk of him is purely because, a bit like Bergkamp, you know. I watched a lot of Bergkamp. I think the thing about Bergkamp, though, and I think Eden Hazard, is that it's hard to deny their talents because people will say they're big game players. I would say Bergkamp more so than Hazard, because Hazard didn't really do it in like knockout competitions. I think Bergkamp was very good for the Netherlands, got them to 2 finals, you know. So alongside, I think one was alongside Van Basten when he was the main player. So
Well, another similar player is Sadio Mane. I would put in that same kind of what's the word, profile as Eden Hazard.
yeah, I would say,
dribbler with less output.
yeah, but I would say even in that context, I would have taken Mane over Hazard if you offered me both players. I think Mane was the better player. So
Another thing that I read is that Eden Hazard would not take care of himself in the off season. He would just have like burgers and like fast food and stuff. So that's why he would start seasons very slowly, and then like as he built up his fitness throughout the season, by like halfway through the season, that's when he started to, like hit peak performance, because he finally like worked off the extra weight.
yeah, and I mean, again, another thing, you can't be one of the greatest players of your generation, in my opinion, if you can't handle your dream move, Like, he went to Real Madrid and then he says it fell apart for him, or it wasn't what he thought it was, It's like, it doesn't make sense. I think he was already, like, a bit, like, he played in a Chelsea team. If you look at when I guess he won 2 league titles at Chelsea. The first season, I think Nemanja Matic and Diego Costa were as influential as him. Could be argued either way that one of the 3 of them were the most influential player in the team, but he won Player of the Season. In the second season, he won the league, I think.
Wait, when did he... 2 years did he win the league?
The first Mourinho one.
Yeah, and then the second? Conte. Oh, okay,
Conte.
okay. My mistake.
In the Conte era, I think...
sorry, just to interrupt you. You were saying Matic and Diego Costa.
Yeah.
I would also think Fabregas in that Mourinho.
Oh, yes, it's Fabregas. Sorry, I forgot.
Fabregas was a huge part of that Mourinho team, I remember. But
Yeah.
yes, sorry, carry on.
Yes, Fabregas as well. I forgot about that. Even Andre Schürrle had a lot of big moments off the bench that I don't think, like, people reflect back on it and act like he was a one-man team that carried Chelsea to countless successes. Like, I mean, if you look at De Bruyne, even though he played in a team that had similar talent, look at how much he elevated them, I think Chelsea unquestionably had a better squad than you guys. They should have been challenging at the same level. They should have been Manchester City's competition, I think when you look at the Conte season, I think he won Player of the Season again. But for me, unquestionably, Kante was the best. Like, if you take him out of that team, they won the league comfortably, but I don't think they would have won it without Kante. I think he was the best player comfortably in that team by a long, long way,
Okay, my number one, and I just want to go back to Salah quickly just to make a point. Salah is a stat padder, meaning he usually gets his goals against the smaller teams. I'm not saying he doesn't score against the big teams, but he'll prioritize his goals.
Okay, but while you're making that argument, right, people will say Eden Hazard is not a stat padder. He shows up in the big games. But is that the truth?
You need to do both.
No, I'm saying, is that the truth? Because...
For Hazard.
Yeah, because...
Hazard never won the Champions League, so...
He never did. He showed up in the big games in the league, which Salah did technically as well, and to a greater extent. So my thing is I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying about Salah. My thing is this whole idea that Eden Hazard is a big game player. Like, people say, oh, he should be... Like, I've seen so many Chelsea fans say he's the 3rd best talent of that generation, which is fucking ridiculous, He's nowhere near Neymar. He's nowhere near Luka Modric. He's nowhere near Toni Kroos. He wouldn't be anywhere in the top 10. I mean, we could go on and listing the players from that generation. We could even go to the PSG current players, and I think they'd be better than Hazard as well. So my thing is just that, okay, he showed up against Arsenal, who were out of form. He used to bully us. Fine. We were a terrible team at the time. He showed up against you guys in the Carabao Cup. A couple of games which people...
A lot of the criticism that whenever somebody posts a comp of Hazard on Twitter, they'll say, wow, all these highlights are from the Carabao Cup.
Because, like, if you're thinking about it, right, he didn't have that good a record against Man City. He didn't have that good a record against Manchester United. So where is all this, like, this idea that he was better than De Bruyne in the big games, or that he was better than Neymar, even Salah in the big games? I just don't get where it comes from, like,
Absolutely. So similarly to Salah, continuing my point, we have stat padders, and the king of the stat padders in our league is Harry Kane, and he's the player I not dislike the most, who I just think is so overrated. He would all the time prioritize his goals over the team's well-being. In fact, there was a time where he said he swore on his daughter's life that the ball touched his head, and they showed him a replay where it clearly didn't touch him at all, and he said, "Nah, I still swear on my daughter's life." Which Eriksson scored a free kick, and Kane is claiming the goal just to kind of fuck over Eriksson, and they're interviewing Eriksson, and Eriksson is like, has an awkward smile on, and is like, yeah, I think Carey touched it, because what else is he gonna say? Like, no, it's my goal.
Yeah, I scored. I mean, there's
so he's being forced to be professional because Kane is being so childish.
I think Ronaldo did something similar.
Okay.
In the last World Cup, I think
I would bring Ronaldo up, but most of that happened at Real Madrid.
Oh no! I'm saying just the incident you spoke of at the last World Cup. I remember Bruno Fernandes got the last touch on a header, and Ronaldo was right behind him. And then Ronaldo ran off to celebrate as if he scored. And then the team followed him, and Bruno was like celebrating on his own. I was like, damn, okay.
Alright, so that's kind of the reason why I suspect Spurs never won a trophy until he ran away to Bayern, or for a short thing, and he still lost the Bundesliga to Bayer Leverkusen. But it's this hunger for goals is a detriment to the team. And another guy I would point out like that is Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Yeah.
It would be like, pass to me, I'll score, pass to me, I'll score. But when he left the Swedish national team, they became better, and they actually qualified for the World Cup. They never qualified when he was part of the team.
Yeah.
And then they qualified as soon as he left, because once you have to actually rely on the team and team play instead of passing it to one player, you become a more functional team. And Kane kept that Spurs team dysfunctional by saying, pass to me, pass to me.
Having it function around him. Yeah, he's also that type of player. Like, I mean, you were saying the same thing about, I guess you were speaking of Salah earlier. The benefit of a player like Salah versus someone like Kane, I guess, is that Salah's he doesn't always want the ball to his feet. He doesn't always want to join the play. He does make runs behind. He does open up space. Whether it's intentional or not is another question. But naturally, his inclination is towards like being direct, getting towards the goal. Whereas Harry Kane, I think, follows the ball, follows the play, and if you can do the things Messi does or Neymar does, that's fine. Like, okay, look, Barcelona doing it with Lamine, it's paying off because he's a sensational footballer who can play at all angles, play at every area on the pitch to the same degree, but doesn't make sense. I think, like you were saying in our earlier episodes, I think Bayern, they haven't really been tested. So I think it's kind of, they've allowed the team to be built around Harry Kane, and at a time it's kind of paying off. We'll see. Real Madrid are picking up form against Real Madrid. If maybe those things of like centering the team around Harry Kane, if those demons come back up,
Absolutely. Any other people you want to bring up or talk about before we close up this episode?
I mean, no one in particular. I think maybe Haaland could be another one, but I think he's just a bit young down the path of like, obviously he is one of the best number 9s in the world, but
another stat padder,
but people talking of him as the generational talent, as the best talent of his generation. Nah.
Okay, well, thank you for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, give a like, etc. Importantly, it needs to be a 5-star review. You can find all our links at pdfootball.com. That's the letter P, the letter D, football.com. Please tell a friend, tell that friend to tell a friend, tell a family member. And yeah, goodbye.
Thank you.